welcome to this Alumni Talk webinar. So I'll just give a brief introduction about TNI Career Counseling. So basically, we are a certified global admission advisory venture founded by experienced and passionate individuals with top degrees in their respective fields. We provide career aptitude tests, early advising, profile and resume building, test preparation and admission guidance for more than 10 countries and 1200 plus global universities for undergraduate, masters, MBA and EMBA programs. Over the years, we have serviced 1000 plus students with almost 100% satisfaction rate, and we have helped students in securing good scholarship, approximately around $2 million in scholarship. Our higher education guidance covers a blend of mentorship expertise and technology where we digitize the college application experience using AI and ML. So how we help students? We help students with career assessments, profile building through test prep, partnering programs, and advising on extracurricular activities. We help students with admission guidance and also support them with their applications for colleges and programs across the world. We also help them secure visa, loans. We help them with travel and all other necessary arrangements as well. These are some of our success stories, some of our students who have scored really well in various exams like SAT, ACT, GMAT, GRE. And we have also helped students get their acceptances from really top universities across the world like Princeton, Imperial College, Manchester, University of Michigan, Harvard, Stanford. These are some of the top universities where we have helped students with their applications. Now, warm welcome to today's panelists. We have with we are already joined by Mr. Saransh and Mr. Alok. However, we have Ms. Shreya Bajaj. She has done her MBA from Cornell University and her bachelor's from NTU. She has worked with companies like KPMG, Verizon, Cisco, and she's currently associated with InVideo. We also have with us Mr. Saransh Tikku. He has done his MSc in Human Resources and Organization, International Employee Relations from London School of Economics and Political Science. He is currently associated with Tata Motor Finance as Dealership Relationship Manager. We will have with us Mr. Chirag Bhatt. He has done his BSc in Computer Science from Illinois Institute of Technology and MSc in Computer Science from Stanford University. He is co-founder of Flock Softwares. We also have with us Mr. Kevin Janjani. He has done his BSc in Engineering from University of Michigan. He has done his MSc in Electrical and Computer Engineering from UC Irvine, and he has done his MBA from University of Southern California. He is currently associated with Bioneo Power as National Sales and Marketing Manager. Warm welcome once again to all our panelists. Now I would like to invite my colleague, Ms. Bosky, to talk about our new initiative that is iGrad. Bosky, over to you.
Thank you, Rupal. Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all here today and talk about a new initiative. Before that, I would like to introduce myself also. I have been associated with the media industry for almost 15 years now. I started my career as a cub reporter for Bennett Coleman, which is Times of India, and went on to work with publications like DNA, Economic Times, and Free Press Journal. I have joined TCC as communication specialist and associate editor of iGrad magazine, which we would be launching soon. So our magazine is like a liaison between students, universities, and educators. We see a lot of information out there. We have a lot of information about everything. You search on the internet and it is there. But how do you filter the fake information from the fact? So this is where iGrad comes in. We are like a voice for higher education, and we strive to bring invaluable expertise to students like you by making you aware of education industry around the globe. It is a platform for these three key components of the industry: the educators, the universities, and the students, to interact, to question, to discuss, and of course, to decide on career paths. So we have a lot of sections in the magazine. We'll have our news, analysis, and of course, we'll talk about universities, about campuses. We'll also have lot of sessions for just same. We are having a lot of experiences, and you can also contribute in our magazine through your articles, and there will be a lot of expert voices who will actually give you a lot of expert comments on your career choices. This will be the platform where you can interact, ask questions, and also get answers, valid answers. So I request you to use it fully, subscribe to it, share the as well. Now, moving on with our webinar, I would like to introduce our moderator this evening, Mr. Dhaval Mehta. He's the co-founder and CEO of TCC. And of course, he understands the education sector like the back of his hand because he himself has received education from best of the institutions. He's the alumni of the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and an expert career coach with over 17 years of experience across finance, consulting, technology, venture capital, and investment banking as well. He is a Pearson certified career counselor in college advertising from Teachers College, Columbia University. And he's also the president of University of Michigan India Alumni Association. He is also doing executive MBA from the Johnson School, Cornell University. Over to you, Dhaval.
Thank you, Rupal, and thank you, Bosky, for the introduction and making our guests today feel welcome. I think that the agenda today is mainly for us to have this informal conversation. I'm so glad I know each one of the panelists that have joined us. I'd love for them to talk about their postgraduate experience, how they selected their particular program, the country, the university, what were the unique program features, including campus, faculty, what are the clubs that they participated in, what kind of diversity helped them while they were on campus, if they took any internships, if they had time to do so, because I know that some master's programs can be about a year, but many others also are about 2 years. So if they can share more information on that, how did they get their first job? After that, what was their thought process? And what is their secret to success? How did they take their career decisions? And moreover, if they have any tips for applications, how to think about your applications, any interviews, and way to strengthen profiles, I'd love for them to share it with the audience today. So please go ahead. Maybe I'll give this opportunity to Saransh first, because I know Shreya's not here with us right now. So Saransh, please take it forward. Lovely to have you here.
Hi, Dhaval. Thank you so much. Just to give you guys a basic, just a basic background of, what I did at the LSE and, what I'm doing now. So I basically studied international employment relations, which is essentially labor unions and trade unions. So currently my family business is heavily involved in a manufacturers trade union called AGMA, All India Industrial Gas Manufacturers Association. So it made sense for me to do a trade union based course. After that, actually, I started working for a company called Luxfer. They manufactured magnesium and aluminium, and we started trading to the Ministry of Defense and in the UK. In fact, even the Indian Army, DRDO in India, and several government bodies. We started this about 2016 end, right after college. And then in 2017, I left them. I joined the Tata Group in Bombay. So this Luxfer, I was living and working out of Brighton, Sussex, south of England. And then in 2017, end of 2017, I moved back to Bombay, and I started working with the Tata Group. I've been with them for about 2.5 years. Now I'm on my notice period because I'm going to start taking over my family business. So that's been the journey so far. I went into a bunch of, I started with labor unions and trade unions, and I entered into government contracts and defense. And then I moved into the finance industry where I've been working for the past 3 years. So I've been working in Tata Motors. I handle the internal finance for all Jaguar Land Rover passenger vehicles and electric vehicles in all of Bombay. And I have a team that does individual dealerships, individual areas within Bombay. And then now I will be moving into industrial gases. So it's been a journey. But so yes, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to, I have a lot. So because I'm currently serving as the vice chair of the LSE
I
Alumni
was actually going to say
Association.
that, maybe if you do give us,
Sure.
a bit of an idea about, how you selected LSE, because I think it's a question that comes across to many of them. There's Imperial, there's UCL, there's some great programs over there. So I'm sure that, for your program, there's a way that you sort of thought about it. And if you give us a little bit more brief of,
Sure.
how was your experience while you're on campus? Was it what you expected? And what was it that you were able to get out of that whole experience, in that, program that you were a part of?
So I think one of the important things that people have to remember is that when you're going to any uni, it isn't about LSE or it isn't about the UK or the US or Canada. When you're going to a university, it isn't simply that you will learn, you'll go to a classroom and they'll teach you X, Y, Z, and this is what will help you in jobs going forward. It will not. Honestly, I studied labor unions, all of that jazz, and I moved into finance, in defense, industrial gases, medical oxygen. It isn't the content of what they teach you, it's simply a critical way of thinking. I know a lot of Indian students struggle when they go abroad. And one of the reasons is that in India, you are taught to think and write in a certain way. The vast majority, I'm not making generalizations, but when you have to write an answer to a question of why did the apple fall on Newton's head, right? Most people will remember that they read it in the book and they're going to start writing, this is why it happened, gravity, and it fell on his head, he invented gravity, la di da, Bob's your uncle, and that's the story. They'll write a nice novel and they'll forget about it. But at the LSE, and I'm sure in most credible universities, they'll teach you how to critically evaluate it, to see what you need to present, to make sure that when you are writing or when you're presenting, even your thoughts, you make sure that you don't generalize, you don't make sweeping statements. You're able to analyze what a writer is trying to say. You make sure that when you are saying and conveying a message, it is to the point, it is clear, it does not leave any room for misinterpretation. There's a lot of critical life experience that goes on in universities. And I'll tell you, I'll share something with you. So when I started at the LSE, and they have these every week. I don't know if a lot of students are going to the LSE from here. Every week they start giving you essays, and the LSE calls these formative essays. There are two types of essays. Formative essays are for you to learn, and summative essays will actually add into your marks. And so formative, so I'll be happy. I failed my first formative essay ever, and he gave me at the LSE. You have to do so. It's out of 100 marks. 50 is the passing mark, and 60 is merit, and 70 is distinction. My first essay ever, I got about 45 or something. So not a bad fail, but it was a fail, and I had to. It was a formative essay. It did not count to it, and I'll tell you why I failed. Right? They told me the question was at the time, explain labor unions in 2020 in the 21st century. And me, and I'll be happy to tell you, three other students, all of us Indian, all of us wrote nice long stories about what the 21st century will shape up to be. It can be, so we all started from the year 2000 to 2099. Right. But actually what the professor wanted was all the things that had led up to 2001. He did not want a sort of, oh, bhavishya mein ye hoga kinds. And all the Indians kind of just failed the understanding the question of what he wanted. And we all wrote nice 5,000 word essays on the future and everything. And that was a very cold, start to this. Okay, this is how you have to do it, and this is how you have to learn. And over time, you learn how to write. You learn how to. I finished with a merit, but it does take some effort to unlearn what you have learned in school, because in India you're taught, oh, do it this way, and there when you go, it makes a difference. You have to learn how to do it. It's not their way. There's a good way and there's a bad way.
No, and Saransh, I get this so often, and I was having a discussion earlier, that when you're going through a college experience, it's like how you have grit. You have to have that grit in terms of working through it. You have to have resilience. You have to understand a whole lot of these things. So you're absolutely right, and I think all of us have at some point in time in a test not done well. Trust me, there's been pop quizzes, whether you're an undergraduate or whether you're in something else. But I know that, while you're sort of, I think that's the process. Like when you're going from an Indian education system and you're going, outside, and especially if you select the US, Canada, UK, all of these, they emphasize on the fact that, you need to sort of be alert. You need to kind of think, you need to have a critical thinking skills really with you. Be able to understand and write, and it's okay to write what you're thinking in many ways. And I think that's what we all have learned from our experience, going to a university outside. But yeah, I'm any particular clubs or anything at LSE which you feel you want to highlight, what has also helped you a lot?
So I'll tell you one thing that you will learn, whether it's the LSE or whether you're going anywhere, right? You will learn that at university, there's a very key difference that I have found, right? In universities abroad, particularly the UK, US, and Canada, it isn't a task to go to college. It isn't that you have to get up and you're like, oh, God, I have to go to work, I have to go to college, I have to, God, is there any way I can skip it? And it isn't that. It's more of a, should I go to this class? It's at 4 p.m. That professor isn't great, yeah, he's not telling me stuff. So people consider this as something that you have paid for and you should get your money's worth from the professor, right? It isn't just, oh, it's an obligation to go to college. People actually enjoy going to college, enjoy choosing courses and clubs that they like, right? You can do MSc in finance and you can still take courses in public administration. And you would think that it doesn't matter, but going forward, it actually does matter. You can absolutely do that, and you can join clubs like the Wine Society, the Cheese Society, and see, it feels like, oh, these are all they're frivolous, they're wastes of time. But at the end of the day, it's very good places to network, and this is a key difference you will find when you are going abroad. That it isn't that somebody will just give you a job. You show up and yes sir, aapko kitna marks aaya? 70% le lo, ye job le lo, wo job le lo. That is not how it works. You have to network, you have to sell yourself, you have to make sure that you are presenting your best foot forward, and all of that prepares you for the real world. Because when you're skipping jobs, when you're moving industries 5-6 years down the line, you're not going to be placed. You're going to have to do all of this going forward. So I think that's a very key difference. University provides you with a lot of outside extracurricular sort of things, and they are actually the main focus of a master's degree. But I would say.
And then maybe two things I want to ask you, and then there's a question on the Q&A which we will try to take later. Sure. But I think there's one which is specifically for you and talks about family business, which you can definitely take up. But my question was, how did you get through the first winter? How was that experience? And what was student life like at LSE?
So LSE is one of those universities where it is absolute murder. They will give you so many essays and so many things that it's not one of those universities where you just show up and attendance is not really important. So there were days in winter when I would leave for uni at 8 a.m. and it would be dark, and I came back home at 5 and it would still be dark. So there are weeks where I have not seen the sun and I'm like, kaisa dikhta tha wo? Right? I am vaguely aware of what the sun looks like. Pura yaad nahi hai mere ko. And as an Indian, you hate the heat, right? You start hating it. But suddenly, when you're thrust into winter in the UK, and it was snowing that time when I was there, and I was like, kash garmi mein, kash main Rajasthan mein hota, right? and it makes a difference. But I'll tell you what, it actually, seasonal affective disorder, SAD, is a real thing. If you don't see the sun for weeks, you start getting depressed. It becomes a huge problem to motivate you also, and that is something that
So
India.
did the nightlife make up for it?
Uh, yeah, actually, yeah, that's the other solution. Just drink and you don't remember the sun.
Okay, good. So now I think there's a question on family business, and maybe if you want to take that and
Let
go
me,
ahead.
yeah. So how that worked was, see, understand when you are looking for jobs, what you are looking at, right? So for example, it would feel like my roles are not directly related, right? But let me show you an example of how you can think of jobs that you want to take up, right? I started working in the defense industry, right? That gave me access to DRDO, that gave me access to high level IAS officers, and it taught me how to sell to the government and how to make tenders and deals with the government. Tata then took me specifically because I was used to making large fleet deals or large deals. So when they took me, I started doing deals with 500 cars, 700 cars, 1,000 cars, to Uber, to Ola, to XYZ, and I directly took my experience from working in with the government and doing larger deals with large sales cycles of 5-6 months. I directly translated that into this, and from Tata and from Luxfer, both things I now take into my family business, because in the family business also, right now, as of today, as we speak, I have to submit some tenders for the Delhi government for medical oxygen cylinders. So my experience of working with the government, tenders, filing the supply orders, that comes in handy. And even finance, my finance experience, right? So there are these PSA plans that we were discussing, right? Because they are 60-70 lakh machines, right? A lot of the small 50-60 bed hospitals will not be able to put up the cash upfront for these. So we are trying to develop a model where like a car, I loan you the oxygen machine and I take EMIs from you monthly. So you get oxygen, I get, interest over 2-3 years of time. So one thing I will say is, don't shy away from a role that you think you don't know. When I was offered the defense industry role while I was doing labor union, I spoke to my father and he said, do it, accept it, and then you figure out how to do it. Because it really does not matter uh, where you come from, what you do. If you want to learn, you will learn it. Absolutely, there is nothing except a doctor. Please do not try to be a doctor randomly upfront. That will not end well for anybody. Other than that, take it. If somebody offers you a role that you think it pays well, you think it's a good role, whether you know how to do it or not, do it. And I assure you, something you will learn that you will take forward. I didn't join the family business upfront because I didn't want to just be that guy who's just here because dad owns the company. I wanted to be useful to the company, to grow it, diversify it, add new models, new ways of thinking. So I directly in my business, I started using a Jaguar Land Rover lease model, but on oxygen plants. Direct, just copy pasted what I'm doing with cars to what I'm doing with oxygen.
Amazing, amazing, great. It's lovely to hear that. Also, just if do you have any specific tips for application, to LSE? How do you strengthen your profile for admission? For UK universities also, just generally, what do you think about that?
So I have a lot of, because as the vice chair, I have to answer a lot of these questions from prospective students. What should I do? How should I make my application better? One thing I tell you that a lot of students don't realize upfront is, don't simply tell the university, please mere ko le lo. Okay. Also make the university feel like they need you, right? In the sense that outline how you add value to the class. This is my background. I've got a background from, I don't know, let's say you're a doctor and now you're trying to do a master's in public administration, as an example. You can absolutely say, because I'm a doctor, I understand the healthcare sector, I will add value to the class by portraying a different point of view in the class, right? So universities are also looking to add diversity. For a MSc in finance, they will not, almost every university will have some sort of breakup of how many BSc finances they want, or how many simply from KPMG Big Four they want to take in directly. And they will try and take in a fair bit from outside also to add diversity so that the class is different. If you're an older applicant, say that all those years of experience adds value to the university, adds value to the class. And I think that really helps. Universities should realize that, oh, this is a candidate that I want in my class, and this is why.
Thanks for that insight. I think that was very useful. Now I'm going to go ahead and introduce Alok. And if anyone has any more questions, please go ahead and put them in the box. I can tell you that it's been a challenging time for everyone, and so of course all our panelists have not been able to log in at the right time. I know we had one right before this, and all the three panelists were there. So do bear with us. I know Alok is here, and I'd love to introduce him. And I know Alok for I think about 30 years now. So a very long time. We went to the same school. We grew up together, and I've seen him grow from strength to strength. I know his mother's in Pune, his sisters at NYU, and she's also fairly well known in the sector. She teaches at NYU. Alok, I'd love to have you talk about your experience with York University. I know you went to the Schulich School of Business and got an MBA from there. So would love to hear from you, and of course tell us about what you're doing now as well. It'll be a lot of insight from you as well.
Yeah, sure, Dhaval. Thanks. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Alok.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, all of you all. So my name is Alok Mehta, and I'm currently heading the direct sales channel for PPFS Mutual Fund, Pan India. And yeah, it's been stressful for all of us. So great to be here. Thanks, Dhaval. I'll dive straight into my journey dating back to 2005, 2004. So I graduated from HR college, and at that time, I was very clear to focus on finance because we had a textile business and it didn't do well for almost 10 plus years in Bombay. And sometimes there's an inner calling. So I realized I had to change course and probably become a professional rather than getting into textiles, which was a dying business at that time in certain sectors of the industry. So I chose to get into mutual fund space, and I started my internship with Merrill Lynch back then, 2001, where I quite liked the industry and the stock market. And ever since I was a teenager, I used to be exposed to a lot of stocks in the family as well. So I thought it was a safe bet to understand the markets, to get into the mutual fund industry, and I was good with interacting with people. So I fell into interpersonal relationship sales, basically. So I started off my career Merrill Lynch. Post that, I went back to the family business for a few years since my father was unwell. So I wanted to wind up the business with him. And I decided that I need to do an MBA. So, at that time, I think the movie Three Idiots was also, I think around that time, or maybe a little later. But so passion was calling from within. So I realized, let me look at US and Canada. Also, the constraints were on finance. So I said, let me self-finance my MBA to a certain extent, take up a loan, and also get into Canada from immigration perspective, because a citizenship would really help in opening doors worldwide rather than just North America. So I did my research. I had a good counselor back then. Today he's quite famous, but he was my dad's friend, Mr. Viral Doshi. Dhaval, you may have heard of him. So I was one of his first client stroke. He advised me. And while I was applying, I was just going through the cities, because I wanted to look at financial capitals of different countries like US or UK or even Canada. So I looked at Toronto and I said, why haven't I applied to Schulich? That was my own find actually. So I said, let me just submit it and go for it and see what happens. I was not like desperate, like how your colleague said. Don't just be desperate saying, please take me. I just gave my essay, I gave my work experience, and I submitted my record. Also, by the way, my GMAT was, I think, below 600 because I hardly studied for it. The circumstances were tough. So I never lost hope. I said, just let me submit it. And here I got a admission letter saying, yes, you've been selected. So I went to Toronto, and immediately I applied for my residency card so that I could reduce my domestic fees.
Sure.
Okay. So here is a trick. So if you apply for your file number while you are there, your file is applied through Niagara or some parts of the US, and you get a file number and you switch to domestic fees. So not only was I trying to save cost, reduce my overall expense for MBA, and also set the platform for immigration. And Schulich School of Business taught me a lot because it was a very multicultural college and a city. Toronto is one of the most multicultural in the world and one of the top 4 cities to live in as per year-on-year surveys. So I also had friends, in fact, from my school in Toronto. So that was a big plus from Kodaikanal International and Green Lawns in Bombay. So that played a role. So I always looked at a holistic approach. You have to look at a holistic approach in life. So which school or college do you want to go to? Are you good at networking there? Do you have a long-term vision for that college or university? I mean, for that country? And what next? So I always thought 5-6 steps ahead and kept my options open and alternatives. And that's what kept guiding me. And that's how I took a decision from a cost perspective, immigration perspective, and a job opportunity perspective.
Absolutely.
So there I landed in Toronto, did my MBA, and post that, getting a job was not easy, but luckily I had a very strong alumni network of my Schulich School of Business. So I connected with at least 15-20 alumni who are in the banking space and mutual fund space. And I kept sending about 15-20 CVs every day to different email IDs. And I got a few calls to connect, or just I got a mentor, fortunately, from my alumni association. So he got me in touch with a mutual fund CEO. A very interesting story where he was launching a product. So I went in downtown Toronto at 7 a.m. I went for the presentation, and I walked up to the CEO and said, "Here is Alok. I worked in Birla. I worked here in Bombay in the MF space." And he called me for an interview. And here I was landing a job of $65,000 back in 2005 or 2006 with bonus, etc. And I was lucky to get a break for 15-16 months, but I came back to India then. So the idea is to network, never lose hope, to be very positive, to keep knowing where you stand and where your passion is. The courses, of course, helped in Schulich, and the alumni networks they have. They used to have these BBQs and these alumni connects every month. So you should participate in such clubs. I was also in the finance club out there, and a multicultural South Asian club that I was also part of. So again, that helped me network. But the idea is to also network and get going with whatever you have. I also remember, a bird in hand is better than 2 in the bush, because beggars cannot be choosers in the first opportunity that you may get in a new country. And yeah, am I audible?
I definitely didn't see it last night. I think they're most.
Yeah. So beggars cannot be choosers at times. Canada also, as Dhaval, your colleague, said, it was extremely cold. So never lose hope.
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to bring up, is that how did you deal with cold, and your program was a 2-year program, right? So
yeah, about 18 months. Yeah, that's right.
Right. So if you had to go through that 2-year program, and what was it like initially when you got there? So self-financing yourself, and then that's one big thing also while you're applying to Canada and other programs today. You actually have a lot more support. I think when you were doing it, maybe there weren't that many options in terms of loans, but today you have a lot more options in terms of taking loans and actually self-financing your education. So maybe while you were looking at also jobs, how was the placement at the placement office at York?
Sure.
Maybe tell us a little bit about that as well.
Sure. So what happened that time? I was at crossroads, Dhaval. Since my father passed away, I either had a choice to come back to India or stick around in Canada and repay my loan. So I was trying to keep both options open, but then I decided that let me give it 3 to 6 months more. It was a survival issue in that sense, and give it my best. So I used the opportunity of the university network, also connected with a lot of alums out there.
Yeah.
And that's how I got through to the right company. So I used to make a list of, say, 15-20 companies I want to target, out of the mutual fund industry: Sun Life, Manulife, XYZ, Franklin, this. So I went for many interviews, and I luckily got through. So it was a question of great determination and a process. Apart from that, self-financing, I got a loan from India. Very hard to get loans back then, and they used to say, you should pledge your house. I mean, I had my investments, but they were locked. So I managed to get that investment, and my first semester payment was through my dad, but of course there were surgeries and all that, so that was a separate issue. So you have to keep in mind all the contingencies also. It's like an entrepreneur. You have to fight for your survival, try to focus on where you want to be and how you want to crack the code there. I had a good friend support there because I had friends from India, like I said, and I've been a good network even in Toronto through my business school. But at the same time, you have to just go with it. And of course, the cold was terrible. So sometimes, like your colleague said, I forget your name. I'm sorry, sir. Minus 21, minus 25. So I would go buy groceries, and I would say, what have I done to go through this pain? It was really tough. And then, of course, come back, have a quick whiskey, and you feel much better. So that was the trick we faced. But Canada was tough back then because jobs were very hard to get by for Indians or those who are non-immigrants especially. And they would always say, you don't have Canadian experience, so how can I give you an option? So that was a very difficult catch-22 situation. So I used to usher, I used to grade MBA papers, started building up some experience, some network. I used to be paid $30 per hour for an MBA paper and all of that. So that's how you build it up. And ultimately I got through.
Wonderful. So it's good to know that you really did persevere. That's one. And then second is, of course, you had, a good network over there.
Yes.
You had availability of, as you said, probably doing an MBA paper or doing, some other off-campus opportunities. And
yes.
that really. And then what was your journey like after you came back? I know you've been in the current role for quite some time, and you've grown that, business as well. Maybe if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So I came back to India when it was a 2008 crisis. Of course, I came back voluntary. I left my job and I came back to India. That's when, it was very tough for 6-8 months. But luckily, again, through networking and, once you learn how to fish, you can fish wherever in the world, irrespective of where you are. So I was able to get a breakthrough in a broking firm in Bombay in a mid-sized listed company. And I worked there for about 18 months. And then I got a break with the mutual fund industry that I'm working for. I knew the founder there again. So because of my skill set and the experience and the connect, I got through. So currently, I'm working for PPFS Mutual Fund, and it's been about 11 years where we grew the company from about 250 crores of management to almost 10,000 plus crores, and a long way to go. But basically, again, I started off as a relationship manager, even though I had all the experience, then became a team leader, then I became a heading Bombay, then I'm head of Pan India today with all the branches under me. So basically perseverance, patience, conviction, self-belief, because you go through ups and downs in any industry or any company, right? So you got to always have a career path and a vision and alternative plans. You can't just say and be rigid, change is constant. So that's how you have to take your career in your stride, your growth in your stride, your ups and downs in your stride. I hope I've answered your question, Dhaval.
Absolutely, you did. Absolutely. And, any other tips that you have? I know that you've been in touch with York and, with, of course, the admission officers there and, in general. So any tips, for application interviews and way to strengthen your profile also while you're applying to, universities in Canada, because it is getting competitive and, GMAT, GRE scores to an extent are also largely important while you're applying to MBA programs. 20 years ago was probably different, 15 years ago, or even 10 years ago. Today it's very, very competitive. And so, of course, having a lot of these things are ideally important, but I'm sure since you're in touch with, the school, maybe you have some advice to share.
Yeah, so I think basically a very comprehensive kind of application should go through. And I think stressing more on your work experience and what your diverse skill sets are, how you'll add value to the firm, because like Schulich School of Business looked at diversity a lot. So I was one of the youngest in my class. I was 25. My average age of the class was about 32. And they were diverse. So some people came from defense, army in Canada. Some came from the medical field who wanted to work in NGOs. Some people came from hardcore finance, some from engineering. So what diversity you bring in, that is one from education and skill set. Then is, of course, nationality. Also, writing about your experiences and how you solve problems, or giving some anecdotes in your essays as well would help. And of course, a very confident interview, because North America looks at a lot of confidence in you as well, apart from your grades or your experience, and how you communicate with them and convince them. Also, a lot of social work can also help to add value to your overall application. I think these are the points I thought you can add.
Fabulous.
And of course, you can then use Dhaval's advice and skill set to get through also, because they know how to open the doors, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Alok. I think that this has been extremely insightful, and maybe I would just ask the rest of this, the audience which is there, to put up any questions that they have in particular, either for, Saransh or for Alok.
Or Dhaval, they can always get in touch through you, and I can always connect.
Absolutely. We would be more than happy to do that. But if they have any particular questions right now, we're happy to take them. And I think that for the sort of the rest of the session, of course, it was more Q&A. We got a whole lot of questions earlier that we were able to answer. And I don't know if anyone has any other questions in particular. But if they don't, then I think we're done with the session for today. I think that we will definitely have more of these alumni talks as we go on. and inviting more people who have a lot more insight to provide. But I'm very happy to have both Saransh and Alok today give us a lot more information about how universities in UK and in Canada, and in particular LSE and York, programs are. So thank you very much. And we look forward to having more of you all. And there's also a feedback form. If anyone would like to fill that and provide some feedback, I think that would really help all of us understand more. And you can always look at our website, the links that the team has shared. And I would thank Rupal and Bosky and Rahul and the rest of the team who've worked towards making sure this was possible.
Yeah, thank you, Dhaval. Be safe and all the best. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.